We are a team of researchers. What happened was shortly after the earthquake, we were interested in looking at how organizations responded to the earthquake in Christchurch. We did a series of little projects, research projects, as a result of which we were successful in getting funding from the government. It's a $500,000 3-year research project looking at building resilience of infrastructure organizations through effective management. In that proposal, we said that we would look at 12 infrastructure organizations. Our predominant data collection tool was to use qualitative kind of interviewing. We promised 120 interviews. We're also going to triangulate, that's a kind of a research jargon, but we are going to use multiple methods of using a quantitative survey to see that whatever we found in the qualitative data collection was consistent with quantitative surveys. So our research, we said, that would involve face-to-face interviews with senior management in these 12 organizations. We have a semi-structured interview protocol, which is subject to the human ethics requirements of this university. All the interviews are recorded verbatim and transcribed. So what I'm going to do today is to give you, as John said, this is going to proceed at a torrid pace. So this is the story of my life over the last 2 years in 10 minutes. And so just a snapshot of where we are with respect to this research project. Before I do that, I need to tell you that what is our goal? Why are we doing research? It's definitely not to, it's one of the goals, but the main goal is not to actually publish very serious abstract papers in very scholarly journals. We promised the government and the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment that we will actually identify a set of best practices that will help organizations to build resilience, inherent resilience as we call it, or organizational resilience as the kind of stuff that Erika was talking about. To date, we started, the project formally started in October last year. We started data collection because we needed the time up to January to finalize our interview protocols, get the required appropriate ethics approvals and so on. So started actually data collection in January. We already have finished 96 interviews. There are 8 organizations that we have collected data from. What I'm going to do is to give you a flavor of the kind of the research we're doing. It is in 3 phases. The first phase is the qualitative part, and which involves in-depth qualitative data from interviews. The second phase is going to be a quantitative survey. We haven't started that yet. And the third phase is actually an action research part where we'll work with the organizations to develop best practices. So just to give you a flavor of the data so far, it's still very initial, early days. I'm going to present a case study of a local government, small local government organization here in the Canterbury region, and talk about what kind of things that we find. This is a small organization. It is serving a small community. It has been reviewed by independent external agencies, and those reviews are very positive. It was reviewed with respect to its response to the earthquakes in 2010-2011, and it has been very positively reviewed. It also got very positive feedback from its own community. It has received an award for community engagement from an external agency. So overall, if you look at various external indicators, it's a very successful response to the disaster. They handled it very well, both the response and the recovery part. And so we are trying now to see what is it that contributed to their success. How is it that they were so successful? So we interviewed about 11 people in this organization, and these data which are transcribed, we have started to just to give an idea of the analysis that we do. We have specialized software, 2 pieces of software that we use to actually trawl through all the statements they have made and pick out themes and codes. It's a very, very laborious process. It's time consuming. And the initial first bit of the process is what is called open coding. that you just go through each sentence line by line, read it, and try to code it as to what it actually means, what's the underlying thing. And out of those codes, we pick out certain themes. What are the common themes that are coming out? So what I am presenting to you are the themes that came from this case based on these interviews. One of the success factors was that this organization had a very clear focus on community well-being, even before the earthquakes. They've always had that focus. They had a very clear goal after the earthquake, and that was to restore normalcy as soon as possible. They were communicating frequently and quite comprehensively with the community, and community development and support was an explicit stated goal of this organization. So that was very important. They were very focused, they were very goal orientated, very research orientated. And we believe that that was one of the reasons for their successful kind of response and recovery. The second factor, which is again very interesting, and not many organizations in Christchurch have probably done this, is that this organization had very, very good positive relationships with its stakeholders. They externally collaborated with engineering kind of organizations, with insurers, with government, with politicians, with community. And particularly the chief executive managed those external stakeholders very, very well. Some organizations, as you are aware, don't have a particularly positive view in the media about them, but this organization was an exception. And again, this was something that was explicitly done. Third is this organization has a very positive work climate. There's a lot of respect and appreciation for colleagues. It's amazing. They talk about each other in very glowing, positive terms. They are value-driven. They are very friendly. It's a relatively non-hierarchical, flat organization. The leadership is very accessible. They're not remote, and very good in communication inside the organization. Very good internal support networks. This is not a very formal organization. They don't have a very formal human resource department, for instance, but they have a very good support system inside among colleagues. The leadership, again, if you look at the CEO, we're very impressed, very competent, very likable, very approachable, conscientious, and very self-aware, aware of their own limitations and strengths. And this CEO enjoyed very high level of credibility and support in the organization. And the amazing thing is, it's not just the leadership at the top, but throughout the organization, the leadership is aligned to this common goal of community engagement. And that's a very important aspect of building organizational resilience. I need to qualify this, however. You can't sort of generalize from a single case and apply it to all organizations. You need to understand the contextual factors that probably made this organization more successful. One was the scale and timing of the disaster. They had suffered more damage in September 2010, less so in the February or June earthquakes. And it is a smaller organization. Generally, our experience at data collection out of 8 organizations, what we are finding is it is quite difficult for a large organization to develop resilience. They have resilience in the sense they have more resources, so they have a lot of slack. But smaller organizations probably would score high on some of the 13 indicators that Erika talked about. There are, of course, potential challenges for this organization. It's not all just positive story. I think staff burnout and fatigue is a real possibility. These people have been working on high adrenaline levels, so they're working hard, working long hours. They are beginning to fatigue, and it's a real possibility. It lacks actually a formal human resource management function. And I shouldn't be saying this, I'm somewhat skeptical of human resource as a profession, but I don't know whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But I think there are other organizations that we have surveyed which have very, very good human resource systems, and they're extremely, very professionally managed human resource organizations. So this one kind of lacks that. It's all very personalized. It's more like a family rather than a professional organization. So that might be a weakness at some point of time, particularly as they are growing. It has been growing, and with organizational growth, always the big problem with organizational growth is the values that you had as a smaller organization. You can't actually, you'd find it hard to sustain and maintain them. Rapid organizational growth can actually corrode your values. So I'm going to rush a bit. So The last bit is that apparently there is a recent revision in the purpose statement for local government by the central government, and that might actually come in the way of their goal. There is a lot of spillover of learning from their disaster management to the day-to-day affairs. I kind of listed some of these points. I want to run quickly to what I actually want to say, and that is some tentative ideas towards theory building. How do we use all this towards theory building? So we actually differentiate between two types of resilience, inherent and adaptive. And inherent resilience is the kind of thing that you develop when you fill those 13 indicator questionnaire and do work on that. Adaptive resilience is what you actually do when the disaster strikes. So we believe that organizational resilience is a combination of both, and we think that right now our idea is that these are the 4 things that seem to be very important. One is a focused shared vision throughout the organization. Another is adaptive leadership, and the third is internal and external collaboration, and the fourth is a very positive, engaged work environment. Okay? I'd be happy to talk about this in greater detail. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time here.